Baker's dream to make delicious treats that can be sold all across the country. Bake You Rich is a new show on Food Network featuring cake boss Buddy Velastro and Charlette Belle from Lady Belle Macarons in Stone Mountain. Just hit the jackpot, winning with her Amiens macaron. Charlette is here to talk about her big win and these delicious treats.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I was rooting for you the whole show, not only because you were from Atlanta, but you just were so much fun on there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And that's what you call it. You French flair with Southern flair.
Well, French flair, Southern flavor.
I love that.
Yeah.
How did that come together, and how did you start this, really your second career?
My name is Charlette Belle. I am the owner of Lady Belle Macarons here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Lady Belle Macarons specializes in French flair, Southern flavor, macarons that you won't find flavors like that anywhere. They're spot on. And we're also home of the exclusive Belle Bite Macarons, which is our Food Network winning macaron.
Oh, I love it. All right, so I'm going to say what I said right before we taped. You came on camera. I'm like, I go, oh, stunningly beautiful. You are just beautiful. Like, I just lovely, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So Charlotte, let's start with, before, I want people to get to know who you are. All right, wait, rewind. One, I love what you make. I am going to order the second I get off the recording with you. I'm going to order. And I say this because my mom is a chef. We're from Haiti. So we're from Haiti. She went to France she has a culinary degree. She was caterer for years. When we were younger, we just wanted Haitian food and she just wouldn't make it. She's like, I went to the best culinary schools in France and in Johnson's Whale in Rhode Island. I will not make just Haitian food. And we're like, all we want is Haitian food. So we were the kids that had the couscous. You had all the settings at the table. We had all these decadent desserts. And I'm like, and lovely. As an adult, I appreciated that. When I was a child, I'm like, seriously? Yeah. So I know what you make. I love what you make. I've had bad macaroons. I've had good ones. I mean, wherever I go, the second I see those colorful little rainbows, I'm like, I want to taste them because some people nail it. And some people are like, why is it it's crusty. It's just dry.
Crumbly. Yes.
So we're going to get to that. But before that, I want to know who you are. So take us back to where, you're in Georgia, but where are you from and how were you raised to the point where you got to here? But we're not going to be here yet. No education, no work yet. Just who is Charlotte?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Georgia. I am an original Georgia peach, born and raised in Columbus, Georgia. I am a bit of a military brat. I didn't move around that much because by the time my mom remarried my dad, he was based in Fort Benning. I come from a very small family. I'm an only child. My mom is an only child. My grandmother is an only child. So there were 4 generations of us in a house at one point. After my mom divorced, moved back home from Atlanta. She was a teacher. So I'm the daughter of a teacher. So I'm very particular about certain things, especially grammar. but basically, I was very influenced by my grandmother. I was raised, of course, by older people, so I had a more mature personality growing up and everything. And little did I know it that when I was at the feet of my grandmother, when she was in the kitchen, that I was just soaking up all of this stuff, And by the time I was an adult, went to college, moved to Atlanta, I really was nostalgic for the things that made me feel like I was home. My grandmother's sweet potato pie, maybe her pound cakes, things like that. And so for some reason, me getting in the kitchen, even though my mom never let me in the kitchen because she was afraid I was going to be like her, which is she would cook in the kitchen, then she'd mess it up, and then she has all this stuff to do. I'm not that person. She didn't know that. So I clean up while I'm cooking, okay? Because I don't want to be dealing with all the nonsense afterwards. I want to sit down with everybody else and enjoy, okay? Send somebody else to clean up after stuff. So when I got here to Atlanta, I found myself wanting to bake those things and cook like my grandmother, my mom did. And even though there was typically not a recipe, I would get, this is what I put in here and you got to figure it out. I figured it out. The first thing that I perfected was my grandmother's sweet potato pie. And what I heard you say is that when your mom got her degree and everything, and she wanted to just share all this wonderful knowledge, this culinary knowledge with the family, I felt the same way. What I ended up doing, however, is taking the flavors of my childhood and embedding them in the macarons.
Ah, see, now, of course, now that makes the most sense in every single way. But before we get to the macarons, we want to go back a little bit more. You're absorbing all this information and all this knowledge from your grandmother. And I mean, I'm telling you, grandparents are the keepers of so much knowledge. And when I see people toss away their grandparents, I just don't get it, because they are the keepers of everything of who you are. So is she allowing you to cook with her? Are you absorbing it that way? Or are you just like sitting back? You're not allowed to cook with her?
Well, no, it wasn't that I wasn't allowed. It's just that when I was younger, when I was that young, I couldn't. I was, 4, 5 years old.
Oh, gotcha.
So I'm just like there, but not realizing until I was an adult how much it influenced me. And then once I moved away from home, it's like, I want that feeling. I want to feel like I'm there, even though I'm here, I'm working or whatever. I want to be able to invoke that whenever I wanted to. And so that's when I started to, let me get in the kitchen. It's a rainy weekend. I'm not going to get on the road. Let me see if I can make that sweet potato pie. Let me see if I can do that smothered chicken or whatever it was. So it wasn't just the desserts. It was everything that I felt like I liked, but I wanted to be able to bring it to life whenever I wanted to, and so even though I wasn't there next to someone who was saying, put a dash of this, put a dash of that, I asked those questions. Once I was an adult on my own, I had to eat, not going to KFC every day or whatever was popular back then, but, I needed to be able to cook on my own. And so they gave me the ingredients, not necessarily the quantities. I had to figure that out over time. But once I got to that point where my grandmother's like, okay, how about you make the sweet potato pie, for the family, and mind you, I didn't just jump into macarons. I've been baking and doing stuff. And it's funny, I just thought about this yesterday, how long I've actually had some form of a entrepreneurial wheel turning in my life, even though I was in corporate America for years. It's like, oh, let me take these mini pies and pound cake slices to the salons and barbershops. So I've got 2 kids. One is 23, the other one's 20. And when my daughter,
by the way, you don't look like you have a 23-year-old and 20-year-old. Like, oh my God, like what? What?
Yeah, I got grown kids now. So when my daughter was like, when she was 20, when she was 2, I said, well, let me go out and see if I can, get some feedback from people, what's out there for me if I share this with people. And it became a thing. And I found myself doing one thing after the next. Now, mind you, I'm going to take you somewhere that has nothing to do with Lady Belle, but I'm a singer-songwriter before then. So I was in the studio singing, writing songs and all that good stuff. And then I wanted to figure out what it is I could do that wouldn't take me away from my family. I was married at the time. And so studio stuff is different because you're in there. Typically studio stuff happens late at night. And you're in there for hours trying to stack vocals and all this kind of stuff. So I needed to find something that I could do and have this creative outlet. And the baking was the thing. Yeah.
Did your mother, all right, so you talked about your grandmother, I mean, and all the 4 generations in the family, but was your mother the same thing? I mean, did she enjoy that baking and cooking?
So my mom, skip the generation, she tried her hand at stuff, but the main thing that she perfected was the peach cobbler. She did a peach cobbler. So I've incorporated peach cobbler, of course, in the flavors of my macarons. My mom was the musician. So she was the pianist for a choir at home. And so I was in a choir since I could be in the choir. And so that's where the singing and the writing came in.
So now so when you went to college, what did you go to college for?
Computer science.
Okay, there we go. All right. So we have the computer science, we have we call it the vocalist, we have we call it the chef, the baker. Which one did you gravitate towards the most? Where, in regards of you were in corporate, you mentioned you were in corporate.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was a project manager and business analyst, started out as a teller. I was in banking most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
For about 20 years. I was with a major bank.
We can sit there and talk about major banks, but you okay?
Yeah. And then they kind of spit me out, and I went to culinary school. I went to Le Cordon Bleu, and got my baking and pastry degree there. Did that for 2 years, full-time student. During that time, because I was married, in the midst of that, I became a divorced woman. So on the other side of that, I went back into corporate, same thing, project management, but I was in insurance with a major insurance company, and did that for 5 years. They spit me out. And then I made a decision at that point. It's like, do I go back onto that merry-go-round of corporate, or do I keep going? At that point, I had evolved into the macarons. Once I went to culinary school, mind you, we never did macarons in class. We were introduced to them briefly, and we used the shell to garnish some other dessert. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, when I was doing my searching about macarons on my computer at the time, I just saw how colorful they were. And I, on my own, decided to embark on teaching myself how to make macarons and perfect them. It was, if you think it was an issue now with everybody's like, oh my gosh, how do I make macarons? They're so difficult. They're so finicky, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Mind you, there wasn't even that conversation back in 2011. No one was talking about how finicky they were. They were just there. And every now and then you'd see something about macarons, but I decided to teach myself because I thought it was a cool mechanism to put flavors that I felt were important to me in those macarons. And eventually, once I decided that I wanted to actually pursue the macarons as the thing, that was in 2015. And that's when I launched my online shop. So I was balancing, my work, not my 9 to 5 or my 9 to whatever, with an online shop. And so it was there, I can.
And I'm sorry, you're balancing the 9 to whenever. You are, because you chose to be in corporate industries that there's no 9 to 5, there's no 8 to 4. There's like whenever I'm done. And by the way, when I go back tomorrow, there's still more. You have children too. You are a divorcee, and you are now creating your side hustle. And back in the day, if a company found that you had a side hustle, they're like, you're not serious about this job. You're not serious about this job. You shouldn't have a side hustle because you should give us 120%. Yes. So how are you juggling all of that at the time?
I have no idea. So, in retrospect, I honestly don't know, because I saw it growing. I saw myself stepping out, and I developed a cool relationship with the Alliance Française here, which is the French Alliance. And I would, do little pop-ups that would require a nice tablescape, things like that. And honestly, I would figure it out. Mind you, I didn't even have the efficiency of the type of equipment that I have now. I had to bake like 2 pans at a time. Now I can bake 6 at a time and all that good stuff. And I got people helping me, but I did what I needed to do. And to ask me exactly how that happened, I can't even tell you. I just did what I needed to do at the time to get it done.
I feel like you just described where when people say, well, how, like when they're in baby number 2, number 3, like I go, well, don't you remember baby number 1? They're like, I go, no, just remember spitting it out. But at the time you're like, I remember the pain. I remember everything about it. It was the worst.
Yeah. When you're in the midst of something, your creative thought process kicks in. And it guides you into how you need to balance things. Okay, if I got to have this ready, then I need to start at this time, baking off things, putting whatever I baked off in the freezer in order for me to get to, presentation time. Then, I take that time off. Maybe I do a 4 10-hour day. week. And so I can have that Friday off, you know, and because Friday is when I have to do my presentation, or I strategically schedule my personal days so that I have that day off to do this. So, you know, I would just kind of balance things like that to make sure that I can meet whatever things that I've agreed to do on my, you know, hustle versus the other stuff. And then maybe, yeah, I got an assignment that's due on Monday, or a project or a presentation or something at work that's due. That means, yeah, I'm gonna have to burn the midnight oil over the weekend so I can get that done. And then I'm ready for Monday. So you just do what you got to do.
I mean, mind you, it's like, I love hearing the constant drive of like really wanting to do more and not even being aware of what you're doing in the time that has gone by, which I do love. Right. How did your experiences from all your different positions help you in the business that you've created?
Project management. Project management. Did I say project management? Yeah. You know, little did I know that. So when I started out, I was a teller. I did like 9 to 6 months or so, whatever the minimum was, before I could post out to ops. And I posted out to ops. Mind you, I went through several mergers until my bank became what it was, you know, eventually. And, you know, I don't know. It's one of those things where when you're in the midst of things, you don't really realize how it's going to help you in the future. You know, I posted out, you know, to be a BA. The BA position evolved into a project management position. Project management and BA in business analysis, where I stayed, you know, for the rest of my tenure in corporate. And now little bits and pieces, you know, dealing with a task list, dealing with a project plan and all this good stuff, just basic things that you know that's going to go from position. I don't care where you go, there's certain elements of project management that's just universal. And so you don't think that at some point when you're being, when you become an entrepreneur, that project management is as critical as it is, but it is. Well, having had situations being a project manager or being part of a team and incorporating those different I guess applications or whatever into now, you know, it's a necessity. And sometimes people who've never had that and they just decide to be an entrepreneur, it's a real big gap. It's a very big gap. And I'm pretty sure for those people, you know, it's even more of a struggle sometimes when you've never been in that kind of environment to know how to apply it to your life. Yeah.
I love that the whole entire concept of being Georgia. I mean, I have a former love, Peachtree City, a pastor's son, and literally, this is one of those I didn't realize kind of a moments. Again, the Haitian kid didn't realize peaches, the most amazing tasting peaches, and I mean, I loved peaches before, but holy moly, when you have a peach from Georgia, and then you try to have a peach when you go back to New England, I'm like, doesn't travel well.
Something's missing. Yes. Well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So now you have all these amazing things that, I mean, because for the sweet potato pie, the sweet potato pie was always something that I love our version. So we have pain patate, which is sweet potato, grinded coconuts, the raisins, the whole type thing, but it's twice baked. So when I met the American sweet potato pie, I'm like, oh, different. But then I didn't have it the right way until again I was in Georgia. I'm like, oh, what? Yeah. Why are we not having it the right way? Yeah. So I really encountered so many of I really love all the sweets that I was very, very lucky, got to spend a lot of time in Peachtree, Georgia. I got to and the pastor's wife, and got tons of food from the congregation. So we got stuff, and it was good stuff while I was there.
Yes.
You went to a French school. Yeah. Cordon bleu is a big deal. But that the whole entire essence of what you grew up with is just amazing and so decadent. When did you decide that it was like a way that you could find that way of intertwining them together? Because most people, I mean, again, my mom now is going back to all the things that she grew up. I mean, I shouldn't say going back to now. Like literally, she started doing it like a couple of decades ago, where she started bringing back all the desserts and all the things that people only got in Haiti. And now she makes them here, and everyone in the States, they get so excited and they order it from her, which is great.
Yes.
You did such a brilliant thing by intertwining them. But when was that point? Were you in school and you realized, I want to make it my own? Was it like your family members saying, like, you cannot forget your roots? Like, what happened where all of a sudden it became aha moment?
Yeah. So while I was in school, I was actually baking macarons. I was probably the only person in class just baking macarons outside of class. And I would bring them to class, bring them to my teacher and all that good stuff. And all my classmates loved them and everything. Then it was just a matter of getting the technique together, learning how to be consistent, get the consistent results. It took some time. Even as recent as 2000, maybe 17, when I created my own recipe. Mm-hmm. And at that point, and the crazy part about macarons is that because we live in Georgia and we have so many different humid times or days, macarons are very sensitive to humidity. Mm-hmm. And so you have to find or create a recipe that's going to be consistent no matter what time of day, time of year, or whatever here. Mm-hmm. And that was then. When I actually decided, and it was something that was really brought to my attention, I was testing macarons and I posted something on Facebook and I said, hey, instead of me just testing macarons and just giving them out to people, let me see if I can do a pop-up. And so I did a pop-up at a friend's business location over in Decatur. And I just Facebook. And a friend of mine, one of my classmates from Albany State, he said, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing? Why are you just selling this for this much? We need to talk. He's an awesome guy. He has a company called Your Crescendo. And basically, his name is Reggie. Let me stop saying he. Reggie pulled me in and said, it's time for us to talk. And basically, his company takes in people who either are entrepreneurs or contributing their talents to the corporate world. Mm-hmm. And he pulls you in to help you figure out what you can do to better your path. And he basically helped me go through a process in his company that helped me ask myself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Yeah. When I asked myself that question, then what came out of me was, I love bringing people together. Mm-hmm. I don't care who you are. To me, there are two universal languages, music and food. Yep. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to understand each other. But when you hear it or when you taste it, you're communicating history, okay, and heritage. Yep. Okay. So that was the overall definition, was I love bringing people together. Over time, it evolved once I started saying, well, let me see if I can make it taste like this, or maybe I can pull in my grandmother's banana pudding or whatever. Then I saw that it was deeper than just me bringing people together. It was me bridging cultures. Mm-hmm. And so I'm this Black woman who's taking foods and flavors from my childhood and embedding them in an internationally recognized dessert that is sought after, that is considered a prestigious dessert. And you have to have a certain amount of skill in order to even render it. You know, so I'm taking what in my childhood is considered soul food and elevating it to a point where people who would never walk into a soul food restaurant would then be introduced to my heritage. And then on the flip side, you got people who, oh yeah, I know what sweet potato, I know what banana pudding is, but they would never find themselves in an environment to be able to have a conversation, to talk to these people who wouldn't walk into a soul food restaurant. But yet when I have an event and I invite people, say for instance, I'm just inviting people that's been previous customers to this event, or they know about it, they know I'm going to be there, and they've had my macarons, then there's an opportunity for these people to be in the same place at the same time, perhaps having conversations that they never dreamed they'd have. Mm-hmm. And I'm the catalyst for it. So
I love it. I love it. I love it so much, because there's so many times that people assume I'm going to create a product and it's only for one group of people only. Mm-hmm. And or I mean, I've been in situations where I'm on a panel and someone's saying my product is only for women. I'm like, but there are men that have women in their lives. Like, what about them? And so when you're saying to the world already, I'm not only creating a product where I'm bringing two worlds together, two cultures together, but it's because I love people and I'm bringing them together. That is like cherry on the cake on every single way. Yeah. What did your family think of when you decided to go this route? Because now you're the women in your life that have like literally like been the catalyst of making sure that all these amazing ideas, tastes, sounds, everything are coming into your life, into your heart. And all of a sudden now you create this amazing company. What do they think? What do they say?
So I'll tell you, and because my family is very small, I unfortunately lost my mom when I was in culinary school. And my grandmother passed away in 18. So she knew, now my mom knew I was embarking on it. At the time, I was still in culinary school when I lost my mom, and I was about to do my externship. So she really didn't have the full, picture in life of what I was doing. My grandmother had more of an idea of what I was doing. And so she became my, cheerleader, well, how, because I do pop-ups at the local farmers markets. And so she's like, well, how did your market go today? Now, mind you, when I lost my job, I didn't tell her right away that I lost my job.
Yeah. Grandmas don't want to hear that. I just want you to know that.
Yeah. She's like, hey, you got your job, right, baby? I was like, okay. So I didn't tell her right away that I had lost my job. By the time she had started having some health issues and she was in the hospital, and she noticed that I was there like every day, like coming. She's like, well, what about your jobs? Like, and I called her mama. I said, Mama, you don't have to worry about the job anymore. I was like, that thing doesn't exist. I lost it back in January. And she's like, and then she said, well, that's what you wanted, ain't it, baby?
They know. Grandmas know. They know.
So that to me was like, hearing her say that was like the fuel that I needed to just forge forward even more furiously. You know what I'm saying? Like she knew and she was cool with it, and she gave me that. So, that was the last, that we talked. And that was the last thing that she said to me, that's what you wanted, ain't it? And it's like, yes, ma'am. So the irony behind all of that is that year that I lost her in July, that was the same year that I got accepted on the Food Network show that I was on. So I almost feel like she
made it happen.
Yeah. Just that energy. The release of that energy was just that extra, because she was in a position then to be even more powerful in spirit than she was in life. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't mention about what the kids think about it, because are they helping you out?
Now, the kids, as far as that part of the family that I brought forth, my son is a very, very pivotal piece in the business itself. He is the guy who does the packaging for me and us in general when we're doing the pop-ups at the markets. So he's a student at Kennesaw State, and his major is finance. So he brings the financial mind to it. It's like, we need to do this, that, and while he's taking the marketing courses and everything, he sees where he can apply it, to the business. My daughter is high functioning autistic. But she comes in, and helps when I need some physical help, in the making of things and the cleanup process and everything. But like I said, my son, he's a very pivotal piece. And when we get our minds together and we're thinking about ideas and mulling over things, it's awesome to have, that springboard of him being, a part of the process. So yeah, it's awesome.
I love it.
And my dad, and I have to say, my stepdad, he's still here, still with me. He's still in Columbus. And I will say this. Sometimes when we're embarking on things, sharing things because we're excited about what we know we're doing and what, we have in mind, sometimes we get back from people things that we don't want to hear. And sometimes those things are things that we shouldn't hear, but yet we should at the same time.
Yeah.
So when I first told my dad, what I wanted to do and how I was, embarking on things, like, well, I wouldn't say I'd never start a business, beyond the age of 30, because, being at 30, if it failed, I could start all over again. I'll take a sip of water. And I didn't want to hear that. And it's kind of a dual reaction.
Mm-hmm.
One is, I'm going to prove to you that what you just said is not applicable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, I'm not going to tell you anything else because I don't want to hear any more of that. I'm just going to show you, because I can show you better than I can tell you what's going on. Okay. And so once I didn't say anything else to him about it, and that was while my grandmother was still alive and everything. Mm-hmm. And once I got on the show and it aired, then he knew that I was serious, and that I guess he saw another side of me that he had never seen once he saw my behavior on the show or whatever, And
you do realize a parent still sees you no matter what you do in life.
As a kid.
Exactly. So that's the thing where it's like, I go, when the advice comes in, I always feel when the advice comes in, it's not like they see you as an adult. They don't see they literally just see you as a child. I was a governor's press secretary, and I'm telling you, my parents were like, still, they saw what I did, but I was still this like little kid. And I'm like, do you not know who I work for? I work for the governor.
Right.
And they're like, doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing to me. So he didn't get it until the show happened. Now, especially now that he knows that I'm doing this full time, he's like, I asked him actually maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I said, what do you think about what I'm doing at this point? And he's like, I'm very proud of what you're doing. He said, the energy that you have and everything that you do to make things happen. He said, I'm very proud of you. So it
is one of those moments where you're like, I go, like gold, because you hold on to those words. I mean, those words really take you further than most people would ever imagine.
Yeah.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Fast forward / rewind. March 2020 happens. All of a sudden, people are talking on the news about toilet paper. All about toilet paper all the time. Little by little, things start closing down. But now Europe, and then you're going to India, then you're going to Australia, around the world, and now we're the last ones, but we're now closed. What was it like for you running a business? Now, like, you are full on, this is like 120% your world right now.
Yeah.
And I go, and food is king. I don't care. Queen, food is food.
Yeah.
But decadent foods are usually in decadent restaurants and, or little bakeries. All those things are now closed. What does that do to you? And I mean, what was your thought when it was happening? I go, and how did it change or propel your company?
So I'll tell you something interesting. At the time that it was happening and we saw things unfolding, it was the end of February. I was on a cruise.
Oh,
I was in the middle of the ocean on one of the last cruise ships that actually made it in without issue.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, a lot of those cruises were quarantined and they had to stay in the ocean.
Yeah, we were one of the last. Yeah, me and a couple other my girlfriends, we went on a cruise. So ironically, one of my girlfriends, she is a financial advisor. She's my financial advisor, actually. And so we're watching things unfold, and she's having to watch it because now she's got to advise her clients.
Yep.
And both of us, the other two on the cruise with her, are both her clients. And so we're getting the same messages everybody else is getting, like, this is that and this is happening. And so, hold on to this and blah, blah, blah. This is how your stocks are. And so we're having to watch the news. Mm-hmm. So while we're out in the water, we're seeing, okay, things are kind of like evolving here. And so we finally got back here to the States.
Yep.
And once we got back here, it was like a matter of days. It was like shutdown, because this was the end of February.
Yep.
And so by the time we got back here, it was March and things had started shutting down. So the interesting thing about my situation is that I had been an online shop at this point since 2015. Mm-hmm. So my online shop was already up and running. there were many people who were not in that frame of mind, who then had to immediately pivot from being a face-to-face retail, product provider to no, now I got to get a website, now I got to figure out shipping, for getting my customers, what they want. And thankfully I was already moving on that train. True enough, my biggest outlet at that point was face-to-face retail at the farmers markets. All of the markets closed except for one that I was at, which is Peachtree City Farmers Market. Okay, Peachtree City is a little different. Most markets are community-based. Peachtree City is actually a business. Peachtree City market business. So they could behave like an outdoor grocery store. Okay. So I never stopped popping up and going to markets. I would travel from Stone Mountain to Peachtree City every weekend because it became an essential spot for people to get fresh fruits and vegetables. My product is gluten-free, which makes it one of those sought after things, because now the grocery stores are like, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to, provoke some sort of protocol, for people to get in there and feel safe. So I never stopped doing that. And that just became my outlet. I was grateful because a lot of my customers who, were familiar with my product and also gluten-free, they already had the own lines that were available. And so I put that out. The other thing that helped me, so that was March. By April, leading up to Mother's Day, I had a great opportunity awarded to me, which was to be featured on Good Morning America as a small business. It's a segment that they have on Good Morning America, which is, and I can't just because, and it's in my head, but it won't come out of my mouth. I also
didn't have it. Yep, I'll find it.
Yeah, but it's an ongoing segment. But because Mother's Day was was coming up soon, they went ahead and put small businesses whose products would be awesome for Mother's Day. They put us on the platform there. We had an opportunity to put out to share a video. Yep. And to this day, that link is still out there, when people run across it, so that helped to boost the visibility, not just locally, but nationwide, folks to know that I even exist. And so some of those people that patronized me then, they still know I exist and they continued on as customers. So I was blessed, very grateful for that, additional platform happening so close to things shutting down. So in March, I don't know that I had as much of a dip. I did have a significant dip because all the markets shut down. The only one that was open was Peachtree City. But grateful that where I am in my life, I'm able to sustain, and it wasn't I wasn't in any dire straits, in terms of, a mortgage or anything like that, So again, just when I think about it, it's like after this, I need to go and say thank you again. Just, what I'm saying, because there were so many people who were in a much, much different circumstance. Yeah.
Where do you feel that the industry is going overall? So, look, we have a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of bakeries, a lot more entrepreneurs that are popping up every which way. It's growing, but at the same time, you're growing, but you're now next door to a person that's doing the same exact thing as you, or during the pandemic, perfect example, they started their business when it was at a high and they weren't prepared for any lows. And so they didn't know how to deal with it and they had to close down. But overall, where do you see the industry going? Also, to add to that, more and more people started going to farmers markets, started going to farm shares, started getting like the butcher, going back in the day where you went to the butcher and got all your meat cut up. Like, I'm going to order a cow, a pig, a chicken, and I'm going to pick it up once a month and everything's going to be put in this big freezer in my house. Right. No more going to big markets. So you're in the food industry and you're on a global platform of the food industry. I mean, and you see disparities of locations of people that don't have food, countries that don't have food. What is happening with food overall? What is happening with where we're getting our food? What would you say? Because like you are in it, you are one of the knowledgeable people in the food industry. So what would you say with what's happening in the next year when things start opening up, but also what's happening in years to come?
Well, what I do see now, and because we're seeing some opening up happening because we've got the vaccinations, we've got people being more, attentive to wearing their masks and whatnot. I am seeing people now, and you already said it, which is they are paying attention to the fact that farmers markets exist. Okay. There's a whole generation, a gap here. In terms of me, I already knew farmers markets existed. They were alive and well when I was a kid. They've evolved to more crafting and whatnot being a part of those farmers markets. But there's more people in younger generations now who are realizing, everything's not packaged in a grocery store. It's amazing. It's like, you mean to tell me there's actually a chicken that lays eggs and it's not just in a carton? So amazingly enough, they're realizing that there's a source for these things. And there's less middleman that has to be involved. They're getting a higher quality product. It may be a little bit more expensive, but the expense comes in because that person or that small business is aiming to make a living out of what it is they love to do. Because the amount of love and care that goes into it, you're getting a very special, high quality set of products at the farmers markets. People are realizing that. I mean, it's just like people go to Whole Foods. Yeah, it's going to be more expensive, but again, you're getting something that's going to, of course, you might have to use less of it because it's that much more quality, associated with it. So no, you're not going to use it up as quickly as you would use something else because of the quality. So there's more people who's paying attention to it now. We're seeing at the farmers markets more vendors popping up. Like yesterday, I was at Vinings, and it's like, wow, where did all these vendors come? We are packed today, and that's because, and just listening to the lady who's next to me who sells elderberry syrup. She accidentally got into being a vendor because last year, when she just randomly put a post out, hey, I got more elderberry syrup than I need. Anybody interested? She posted it out online and people started coming on. And then more people, then it started spreading word of mouth when she does elderberry syrup. Now, elderberry is a thing because of the immune system benefits. Okay. So now she's got a business. So it's not just people sometimes intentionally doing it. It's because people in their community have seen the value in what they're doing, and now it's becoming we need more of this. Can you give me some more? I told so-and-so. And so we're seeing things happening now just because of the appreciation of the value. And I foresee a trend in people looking for more of that direct service, direct product offering than just going to the grocery store, to get things that are prepackaged, that's packaged or canned or bottled in a high, quantity, environment. So it's not just a numbers game anymore, it's a quality game. And so grocery stores, I'm going to say they're probably going to have to take it up a notch in terms of what they're offering customers. As long as people are seeing that value, I'm hoping there's more of a balance here, so that the entrepreneurs, the people who craft certain things, that they're seeing an uplift in the demand for what it is they do. So I'm really hoping that balance.
I love how you said that, because I think that one of the disparities is the fact that these large stores, the Walmarts of the world, came in and they basically started pushing these small farmers to like I go, I will not give you your cost. I will give you a cost, not your cost, because I can get it from anyone. And so out of survival mode, they just took whatever they could. And I think that the pandemic has helped. I mean, it was getting a little bit better. And I mean, I'm part of a farm share where I live I live 16 miles outside of Boston. In 3 towns, we support the farms. So we have like our days on, like, I mean, for 6 months out of the year, we have our days, we go, and we know that these 3 towns support this one farm. And it's like, we get our food, and I get excited. And I tell people all the time, I get something, an apple, whether I go apple picking or I get my celery, it lasts 3 or 4 weeks in my refrigerator, by the way. So it's not even like I'm rushing, but it's lasting. And so think about your celery that you get in the market. Where did it come from? Where did this little poor celery come from? Because it lasts a week or 2 in my refrigerator. And I get upset because I just paid high. I mean, I paid a lower cost, but it is a frustration. Yeah. I interviewed the 2 women that run the farm share. And I asked, I'm like, I know the answer, but I want to hear from you. What is the rationale behind the high cost of the food? And she said it just like you did. She's like, you're not paying. I go, yeah, you can go to the supermarket and you're paying cheaper. I go, but guess what? When you're paying for the farm, you're paying for the ballet school. You're paying for the baseball team. You're paying for it's going directly to them and their families. They have families that wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, not 5 o'clock, but 4 o'clock in the morning to get your food and make sure that there's no frostbite on it. That's what you're paying for. And if you care about the person, the people, then you should care about that the price should not even affect you.
Right.
I love that.
It's the personal reciprocation. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. And when you see it directly help those people who's offering it to you, then it motivates you to do more of that, to seek more of that out, for things that are meaningful to you in your life, whether it's your lotions or it's a gluten-free product, whatever the case may be. Yeah. And it's one of those cycles, and you see it once that wheel starts turning, you see how beneficial it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. What would you say to someone that is listening to you and they're thinking, okay, I've been at home for a year, I don't like my job, or I've gotten furloughed, or I've gotten disposed of, whichever term it is, or I'm sitting at home, I'm working, I'm getting paid, but I hate the job because one day I'm gonna have to go back to the micromanager. What would you say to that person that's looking to start their own thing, but they're like, I mean, so what would you say? But also in regards of when you're saying, what would you say to them? What were your highs and what were your lows of you starting your business?
I'll start with the highs and the lows first.
Okay.
The high, of course, is seeing the growth, seeing the evolution of an idea here being, brought into fruition. And regardless of that evolution and, okay, so now I did this, now let me do that. You keep seeing it happen, and you keep seeing you going from what I call going from glory to glory with it. Okay. So those are the highs. Below is being here, wanting to be there and not knowing in between and how to get from here to there. Okay. I can't tell you how many different times that dream pops up where it's in my subconscious, and in the dream, I'm at a point and I see a sunset or a beautiful something over there on the horizon. And I'm trying to get there, and it's like there's this abyss between me and that. Yep. And it pops up in my dreams because it's part of my subconscious, because I'm at another spot where I'm here but want to get there. Those are the lows. But I'll tell you what then is my answer for those folks that want to move into entrepreneurship. It's the filling in that gap. So one of the number one things that I recommend is, if you're here and you want to get there, you're in that job, but you want to initiate your entrepreneur journey, is mentorship. I don't care what anybody says. When it's just, I'm a strong believer in the law of attraction and incorporating it, no matter what your spiritual background is or whatever the case may be. The law of attraction is always applicable. And that is when you think about a certain thing and you're invoking that energy, that's what you're going to bring to you. So when you are thinking about what it is you want to do, look at who's doing it. Look at who's doing it successfully. And the more you surround yourself with that energy of those people who are successful at doing what it is you want to do, the more you're attracting it to yourself.
Yeah.
And I've found that surrounding myself with people, and different people have different, I guess, additives that they can bring into your process. Maybe you want to know how to get yourself set up in your state, as far as, you know, the Secretary of State, you know, setting up the business and all this good stuff. Maybe there's a person who's already done that, and then they can feed you, you know, their energy for that information. And then, you know, more specific to your product, maybe it's a product or service you have, but then you know someone, you know, someone who knows someone in your circle or whatever. I'm not afraid to ask anybody anything in terms of, you know, oh, I see, you know, so-and-so, you know, can you introduce me, or whatever the case may be. You have to kind of step outside of whatever, you know, barriers you build around yourself, step beyond those barriers and start asking people questions. You never know, just talking to people, what answers you'll be able to receive. So seek out mentorship in the various areas that, you know, you require. And the best thing of all is seeing those mentors being successful, not just any mentors, because there are some mentors that's doing what you're doing. There's some people who are doing what you're doing that aren't successful. And then there's some that are. Make sure you're very choosy in picking those folks that are going in the direction, being successful in what it is you want to be successful in, pulling those people in. Some will be receptive, some won't, and don't even get offended when they're not, because there's more than enough space for everybody, you know, to do what it is they love and be successful at. So mentorship.
You know what? I love that you said that, because I'm telling you, I say this 10 zillion times and over. And the biggest barrier to a lot of people is, well, I don't want them to say no to me. I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask for help.
Who cares? This is my daughter, when she was growing up, like, who cares? That's why I was like, like, who cares? Next. Who's next? Somebody's going to say, yeah.
That's like one of the I was at a conference, our virtual conferences, and someone said something, and I loved it so much. When someone says no to you, you sit there and take the N and the O and you convert it to next opportunity.
Yes. Next. keep it moving.
I love it. All right. So I mean, this the time goes by fast when you're talking to someone like really like goodness gracious. I have 3 more questions, but the last one is it's a double.
Yeah.
In regards to the best customer for you, the person that's engaged with you the most, like who is the person that you want to engage with the most and know of you? And also, actually, I'm gonna wait till the last. I'm going to like that's gonna I'm like who is the best customer? Who is that person that I never knew about you, but now I'm excited about you. I heard about you. Who is that person that gets excited that never knew about what you do?
The person who gets excited once they know about me, once they see me. The person who is open to exciting taste experiences. Because that is my ultimate goal, is to give you an exciting taste experience so that you feel like I'm not going to get this anywhere else. And so I want to come back again and again and again. That's the person that I want. The person who has had what I provide, but would love to try my product and then also decide that they want to come back again and again, and the other won't do anymore.
I love it. I like that a lot. That's how I told you, like, the second we're done, I'm ordering. I'm so excited. All right. So our last question, it's a double. If you had, and I ask this of everyone at the end of all conversations, but let it be known, this is not our last conversation, because I am going to come after you again in group conversations, but it will always end this way. You had a personal ask and a professional ask of anyone that's listening to you. I mean, God, you've given such great nuggets, so I don't even know what else is going to happen, but I'm so excited. but a professional goal and a professional ask and a personal ask, what would they be to anyone that's listening to you right now?
And help me understand the question. If I had a personal
ask or a personal ask and a professional ask, meaning that if you're going to an investor, you always have an ask. There's always an ask, but the ask is always for the business. I'm adding in what's your personal ask too, because we ask too much for our businesses, but we never ask for ourselves.
Ooh, a personal ask. Let me see if I can tackle that one first. A personal ask for me.
Yes.
Of someone else.
Oh, or anyone that's listening.
Oh, that's a tough one. Because speaking on this, I don't know what to, my personal is so embedded in the business. Sometimes it's hard to separate the two.
Well, okay. and this is why I say two answers, because again, we as entrepreneurs, we blend, and
yes.
and sometimes we have to step away from our own businesses to see things that we need ourselves.
Yeah. The personal, oh my gosh, you're gonna, now you're gonna stump me. And you know what, that's probably an indication that I don't pay attention to that part as much as I probably should. The personal side.
You are welcome.
Wow. So now let me ask you so I can give you a great answer here. Okay. in terms of the personal. If it's a personal ask and I want that answer to be given to me, is it a personal ask in terms of me asking you for something personally, or what?
I'm all about, if the universe hears it, it happens.
Okay.
I believe wholeheartedly about that, because if you keep it in your head, the universe can't help you. The universe has to hear it.
Okay. So that helps me tremendously, because I talk to the universe all the time. So I'm going to answer this as if it's me putting out a personal or a business ask to the universe.
Remember, two answers, don't cheat.
Yes. So personally, balance. That's what I want, is balance. Beautiful balance, so that I continue to absolutely adore what it is that I do. And all of the resources are provided to me to allow me to be able to do that, so I can continue to take care of myself personally and pay attention to me.
Beautiful. Good job.
Now, business-wise, I'm asking the universe for everything that I need in order to continue to build my business and to create a generational legacy that provides more beyond everything that my children will need in order to be successful in their lives and for generations to come, but will also allow me to just enjoy my business and be able to stand back and watch it grow while I manage it. Okay, right now I'm in the trenches.
I love, you know what, I love that, because I mean, you're in the middle of the legacy. I mean, you have literally, you're carrying the stories and the tales and the lessons and the food, the cultural foods of your grandmother, your mom, and you're carrying that. And you're giving away. So I really remind people all the time where what you do now is part of the legacy, and it's not just giving it a piece of jewelry or a thing. It literally is the stories that you share while you're baking. It's literally the smells, the sights, the sounds.
Yes.
And it's not just, and for every one of us that buy your product, it's like us remembering that your legacy is being stretched in so many different ways. And it's not just always, oh, look, I'm going to give you my phone. That's part of my legacy. I'm like, no, it's not.
Right. And when you find, my call to action anytime I'm posting anything is find the lady. So when people find the lady and they reach me at one of the local markets, my story is right there on the table. And so many people will stop and read the story, and I appreciate it. My grandmother's right there on the bottom. The logo itself represents my grandmother. I don't know if you realize this is a cake.
The hat.
Yeah, the hat is a cake. The 3 macarons, that's 3 generations of ladies, you know. And the whole of it is my grandfather, because he was the entrepreneur in the family. He owned his own barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that represents all the people in my life that aren't necessarily here, they're here, right here with me every time.
I love it. All right, so I do have a very last question. Macaroons, macarons, what's the quick history? I'm telling you, you know, because people, even when I was younger, I'm like, I heard it in the French way, because like my mother, our family speaks French. So of course now I'm like, I go, people get it wrong all the time. You know, they get it wrong all the time. Can you just walk us through a little bit of a history?
Yes, the macaron versus the macaroon. So the macaroon, even though it does have some European roots, it's rooted here in the States as a coconut-based, gluten-free. It's still gluten-free, but it's egg white, or it's a meringue-based dessert with coconut. That is a macaroon.
Yep.
The macaron is basically rooted in Italy. It migrated to France by way of Catherine Medici, who married into the French monarchy. She took her pastry people with her, and it took root there, but then it spread out into, various regions of France. So there's various types of macarons, which is another thing that people don't realize. It doesn't just look like the colorful double-decker with the cream in the middle. And a matter of fact, my exclusive Belle Bite macarons don't look like that at all. They look completely different. And I sent you some images of that.
Yep.
That's the one that I did on the show. They were influenced by those techniques in other regions of France, and I created my own. So those are macarons. And macarons are made with almond flour. They should also be gluten-free, but you have to ask here in the States, because not every shop that has macarons, even if you find them in the freezer, or if you're standing in the line at TJ Maxx or something, those really shouldn't even qualify as macarons.
I was at Home Goods the other day and I did see them, and I was like, really? Like, really? Huh.
You have no idea how many people come to me and they say, well, I tried them before, and they tried them, because they saw them on a shelf somewhere. It's like, no.
Fresh. What's your favorite flavor?
Ooh, see, I'm a chocolate fan. And while I love all the macarons that I do, I'm very sure to put a little tiny bit of extra love in the ones that are chocolate. So I love my mocha brownie, but I love the sweet potato pie because it tastes exactly like my grandmother's sweet potato pie. I'm a real stickler when it comes to something being spot on. If I tell you it's sweet potato or banana pudding or peach cobbler, it's going to taste exactly like that.
All right. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to order, and I'm going to order them for a reason. So for Christmas, when I was in Florida for Christmas, my mother and I got a bottle of Macaron champagne, and we were eating creme brulee while we were watching Bridgerton. So this time around,
Bridgerton, I love it. Because
if you're gonna watch it, you're gonna have to you gotta watch
right.
it. So now I'm gonna go back and like our Macaron Viclet, and I always say it wrong, but our champagne. So we're gonna get the champagne, and I'm gonna sit there and really pull them out, because my mom is the person where Mother's Day and her birthday were the only times that my dad took part to a restaurant, because it's embarrassing, because she will tear up your menu. She will tear up the food if it's bad, because being a chef, you know how you guys are.
Yes.
So I'm gonna order, and I'm gonna order a few, because it's gonna be a full-on champagne and eating, and I'm gonna take pictures. And I don't know what we're gonna watch, but we're gonna watch something while we're eating. And so I'm gonna order them so that way they're delivered to Florida, so that way they're ready to go.
And I would suggest that you get both kinds.
I'm gonna get a few. I'm gonna get a few.
Well, I'm saying both types of macarons, the Parisian and the Belle Bite, because you won't find Belle Bites anywhere but with Lady Belle.
Well, that's why I'm gonna go nuts right now, and I'm just gonna order a few. Now I'm excited. I'm excited because Lily is this is one of the things where I have tried so many new things. From all these interviews I've done, I've just met random people, and I've just gone online. I go, you don't understand. I'm buying your things now. So I've ordered and bought things where I'm like, I would never in a million years I've worked for the governor. I worked in media for 10 years. I would have never met you. I would have never known about you.
Yeah.
This is my time to support you. I'm not just supporting you with this way and just to have the conversation. I want to support you by buying your things and trying them out and having cool gifts. Cool gifts to send people. So, oh my gosh, Charlotte, this was, I mean, I hope it was okay for you.
It was awesome. I've enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this. I felt like we've met before, but because the conversation. Yeah.
I always tell people, I go, I'm not Oprah. I go, I'm just easygoing. I mean, I love people. I love people. I go, I was that kid where my parents were like, she's gonna get kidnapped. She's talking to everyone. Because I was like, so, I mean, you know what, honestly, I thank you so very much for stopping your day and just talking for an hour. I mean, this was so wonderful. And so you're going to see the order soon. So thank you. I mean, this has been wonderful. And I look forward to the next time.
Awesome. I do too. Just let me know.
Talk to you soon.
All righty.
Bye-bye.